black and white because it should be. This deck was created to offer you clarity, to offer you honesty, to give you truthful information, which is why there's no confusing imagery. It's just words. I need more balance. You know, have I lost everything? I have so much desire for you. The numbers are there to inspire you to delve deeper into the meanings, but the idea behind this whole deck is you shouldn't be overthinking it. It should be a useful tool, as all tarot is, to connect you with your intuition and to help you feel your way through your situation. Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm trying not to look at myself, but I am. I'm sorry. I don't film with my face on the camera very often, so when I do, it's a big distraction. So today's video is explaining the Channeled Messages Oracle deck. Now recently I've received a lot of emails, just a lot of questions in general about how to interpret the Channeled Messages Hermit Tarot deck. So it's wonderful news that you're all receiving your decks. Shipping obviously is a bit slow with the current events that are going on, but I'm so happy to hear that you're all receiving them. This video is hopefully going to explain why I made certain cards the way that I did, the colors behind each card, the inspiration behind each card, why certain cards have colors or numbers and others don't, and just explaining how I like to use my deck as well. So I just want to clarify before we get into it, the main purpose behind this deck was for it to be used as a powerful resource, a tool to harness your intuition. So you're only as powerful as you allow yourself to be. This tarot is only going to, or this oracle deck I should say, is only going to help you use the intuition you already have. So that was the main premise. It's aimed at giving you honest, clear information so that you can move forward, making informed decisions in your life, on your journey, but it is just a tool. The true power lies within. So keeping that in mind, watch ahead to understand why I made certain cards the way that I did and how I use this deck to harness my intuition. So I want to start over here with the colors. So I might just touch on these cards one by one. Overall energy of these colored cards, anything that isn't sort of black and white, gray, black or blue, was inspired by the major arcana in the traditional Rider-Waite tarot. So these colored cards hold great significance over your reading. If you draw any one of these colored cards in your reading, then it holds a lot of bearing, as much bearing as a major arcana card would in a traditional tarot reading. So I just want to touch on some cards. I won't talk about all of them because again, the colors behind these cards were intuitively chosen to take a little bit of resemblance from the traditional major arcana, but also to just stimulate your intuition as you interpret them when they're drawn. So the first one that I will talk about is this 13. This card was inspired by the Death card, which is why it has the number 13 on it as well. The colors behind this card are to stimulate that sort of deeper feeling, but it isn't stagnant. You know, as dark as the color is on this, it's not as light as that. That color isn't stagnant. It does imply this feeling of renewal with that bluey sort of greeny color. There's this feeling of, yes, there's a bit of turmoil there as though it's a rough sea, but there is renewal. So that is the main sort of idea behind that card. I hope that makes sense. This card speaks exactly as it is, basically. I chose the words to be arranged this way so that it shows a firm foundation, similar to the Tower card. Rather than showing a tower that is crumbling, this definitely was printed in this way to really emphasize the stability behind this card, the assurance behind this card, and that purpley color is resemblant of your third eye chakra, intuitive knowing. Now this pink card, it is meant to stimulate your softer, sort of more feminine energies. It is just a firm reminder. It isn't based off any of the specific major arcana cards, but seeing as this is a Channeled Messages Oracle deck that is based mostly off of the idea of love and all those situationships that we find ourselves in, I thought it would be fitting to incorporate some of these pink colored cards. So there's that one, and there's also the Listen to Your Heart card. Now I want to go back to the start. We also have Love Me as well, of course. This is a fan favorite. So those pinky cards are meant to stimulate our softer, more feminine energies, regardless of your assigned gender or your gender of your choice. The softer colors behind these cards are meant to instigate that feeling of the Empress, more feminine, nurturing energies in your readings. Now, the I'm a very jealous person, I wanted this card to stand on its own. In my handwritten oracle deck, it was a part of the Devil spread over here, which I'll talk about. So I wanted this to be separate because I believe that it is a separate energy. While the letters on this card say I'm a very jealous person, the idea behind this card is envy. So it's not always an idea of I'm watching you, what are you doing? It's more this idea of possession, this idea of greed at times, and also envy, which is why this has such a dark green color behind it. It is a heavier energy. So in terms of the major arcana, I associate that with the Devil card, but it's more playing into the envy. So the You Matter card is really just a reminder card from the universe, from your oracles. When this card comes out, it's a fairly, again, it's the idea of a major arcana card basically in this deck. So it is an anchoring point in your reading. It can be interpreted as your person, but more often than not, it's your higher self reminding you that you matter. And perhaps the question at the butt of your spread doesn't matter as much as you do. You know, it's just a firm reminder of your self-worth and the fact that you do matter, regardless of what truth you uncover in your spread, reminding yourself that you matter. Now, the Gossip Only Hurts More card, I needed this to be separate because the sort of lighter purple on this can instigate feelings of confusion when you may have overstepped that boundary there when you're asking for the truth and your intuition is telling you one thing but your logical mind is trying to tell you the other thing. So this card can often talk about perhaps your person has found out something about you, but more often than not, it's just a reminder that perhaps the answers you seek you already know. And the more that you seem to be delving, the deeper you seem to delve, the more confusing that knowing becomes, because your logical mind is trying to tell you something completely different. Now we have these really gloriously offensive red cards. I'm actually opposed to the color red usually in this spread, in cards, because I just feel that it can be very harsh, it can be very confronting, but you almost needed those in a channeled messages oracle deck. You need the answers as they are sometimes. When there is so much left for interpretation, I find that the main reason why I wanted to create this deck was that, so that the messages could be black and white and just clear. So these are exactly as they say they are, no and you are wrong. But as always, you interpret them as you feel in the spread at that time. So my Yes card, again, just like the No card, it's a very positive card. It's yellow because it is inspired by the Sun card. So that's the main reason it's not green. It's not a traffic light, it's inspired by the Sun card. We have You Are So Very Special, and I put the 21 here because this card is inspired off the World card, considered to be the final card in the major arcana. So that is an important thing to keep in mind. And when this card comes out, yes, you are very special, but there's also a culminating situation happening here. There's also an achievement happening here, the end of a cycle approaching when that card comes out. I'm Ready is inspired by the Fool, as simple as it is, the number 0. And we also have Be More Selfish, which wasn't inspired by a specific major arcana card, but this is a significant card in the channeled messages oracle deck. And we have the Strength card, which has ego in the question mark, because I wanted you to decide for yourself what you were feeling. Is this card being represented in your spread because your person is exhibiting egotistic tendencies, which might be reflected in the addition of Devil cards, but by itself this is a card of strength, and you can't really see it in the print. It was intended to be more orange than red. Next to this card it definitely looks more orange, but it still has that reddy tinge to it, So this is inspired by the Strength card in the Major Arcana, which is why it has that 8 there as well. Alright, so I want to move over here to the grey coloured cards. So all of these cards, they're not inspired by tarot. They're more so inspired by the confusion that you feel when you're in a situationship, or when you're in a tricky situation with someone and you don't really know what they're thinking, and honestly when it gets really confusing you don't even know what you're thinking either. So all of these cards, any of these grey cards, whether they're light grey or we have our 2 darker grey cards here, they represent confusion. Yes, the wording is very essential in how you read these messages, but it's also the colors. The colors play a very integral role in these cards and how you interpret them. Every single card is colored specifically to evoke that natural intuitive emotion. So the gray here is just really playing on the fact that there may be a lot of confusion in your connection, that your person may be experiencing a lot of confusion, which is why the I am in so much pain card is one of the darkest cards, because confusion causes a lot of pain. Now the only card that has a number here is the This Love Scares Me card. This card was actually inspired by twin flame connections. As we know, the number 11 can be very significant if you are in one of those connections. Now moving over here to our light blue, these cards are considered advice cards. They're considered cards that are given to you as advice from your spirit guides, from source, from God, etc. So they are light blue because they are meant to stand out. In a spread, they can get overlooked when you have all these offensive colored cards here and the black cards. But remember that if you do get a light blue card, while the message may be from your person, it is calling for you to trust that your connection is being guided. Trust that you are never alone. So if you find yourself receiving a majority of these cards, it's a firm reminder that you do have angels, that you do have spirit guides guiding you, and that you should be calling on to them for assistance. So that is the main reason why all of these cards are that light blue color. Some of them are specific advice, think before you act. Now is not the time. We also have words do hurt. It's a reminder. You already know, which is inspired by the High Priestess card. The Seek Professional Advice card was inspired by the Hierophant card in the Major Arcana. We have You Are Right. They are waiting for you. Wrongful advice, because this one sometimes needs to be spilled, wrongful advice. We need to know when we've taken the wrong advice sometimes. Do you even care? And time to ground yourself. So these are considered advice cards from the universe, from spirit, from God, from source, etc. And it is important that you do pay attention to them. They are there for a very specific reason. While the messages may be from your person, those cards are a reminder that you have beings looking out for you. You have people helping you. You have souls and spirits guiding you through the situation. And if you are that stuck, if you are in that much pain, if you are that confused, you can always call on the help of your angels. Now I'll move over here because this is almost intimidating. This stack is huge. Our black cards over here. I am a Capricorn sun, and for me, especially when I ask about love, when I do a spread, I always get the Devil card. Always. I'm almost surprised when it doesn't show up in my spread. So I wanted to elaborate on that card. It is multifaceted. The Devil card doesn't just represent toxicity and addictions. It represents all the pleasures of the flesh, all the things that may be chaining us and keeping us from being liberated. So I wanted to elaborate on that. And in this Channeled Messages Oracle deck, it was really important for me to include these cards in a way that they do stand out in the reading, because I think for a lot of you that started watching my channel at the early days, these cards were, they had that different sort of energy to them when they came out. Everyone was almost anticipating one of the 15 cards to come out. And obviously the 15 is symbolic of the Devil card in the Major Arcana as well. So we have I'm obsessed with your body. This card is really playing into the fact that it's not just addiction, but obsession. And that obsession might only be skin deep. We often tell ourselves that we feel strongly connected to someone, that we feel chemistry, that we feel a soul connection, but actually it might just be an obsession with that person's flesh. So this is getting a bit heavy. Tap out if you need to and come back to finish the rest of the video. We have I'm addicted to you. So this is an interpretation of the addiction that the devil card can represent in a reading. It doesn't necessarily mean alcohol and drugs, although it can. It can also mean addictive tendencies. Addictive personalities don't need to be addicted to specific substances to display their tendencies. They tend to be the kind of people who get stuck in routines, who seem to be in cycles all the time, who get stuck in karmic cycles, who struggle to face their own actions and behaviors. And listen, it mightn't be an ongoing trait, but it could be about that. What am I trying to say? Sorry, getting tongue twisted. This card could represent that specific tendency when it shows up in your spread. So we have obsession, addiction, we have sex, because I mean, the devil card can, one of the main reasons it shows up in a love reading is to be interpreted as sexual attraction, sex in general, lust, that magnetic chemistry that we feel with someone, even though we know they're probably not good for us, even though we know there may not be a future. It's all about the sex, which is why that card is simply just sex. Now we have I want to get you drunk, because this card is different, okay? It's not just about addictions. The I want to get you drunk card is about someone needing courage in order to do something, someone needing a distraction in order to do something, someone needing a leg up on the situation in order to do something. This indicates someone who lacks self-confidence, who lacks courage to be direct with communication. This is someone who needs a window of an opportunity in order to achieve their outcome. While their intentions may be to tell you how they feel, this card will come out at a time when that person isn't feeling strong enough, isn't feeling courageous enough, isn't feeling confident enough to approach you directly. So this card talks about using substances, using a house party, for example, as this situation to be able to talk to you, because you're going to be under the influence, you're going to have lowered inhibitions, and it's going to give them the confidence they need to approach you. That's a very specific situation. It was just an example, but that is what this card can interpret and mean in your spread. And the last devil card is you make me want to do bad things, which talks about the energy we enter with the devil card. The major arcana cards, they all tell very specific stories, the Fool's Journey, but they also talk about energies that you can inhibit when these cards show up in your spread. So one of the main energies with the devil card is this feeling of boosted confidence, as though there's no repercussions, this feeling of lowered inhibitions, you know, this feeling as though you can live like a king for a day without the consequences of one. And that is what this card represents, is that moral confliction, that idea that every action has a reaction, everything you do has a consequence, and yet you tell yourself that you might be able to get away with it. That is what this card is talking about. This card sometimes shows up in a spread when, for example, the person that you're attracted to may be with or in another connection, may have another partner, and them meeting you has caused them to think about cheating on that partner in order to have a moment with you. That is an example of when this card may show up, is when that person's moral compass is being conflicted, and they feel morally conflicted. So that is what this card talks about. Now over here, this giant stack, I'm obviously not going to read all of them. You'll have to watch my videos to see how I interpret these cards individually, but they are important, okay? These cards should usually take up a majority of your spread. There are a lot of them. From memory, I think there's over 70 of these cards, maybe over 60. There's 100 cards in total. There's about 60 of these black and white cards. Some of them have a little bit of color. I'll see if I can find one. Goodness, I think it's this one, yeah. So some of them have a little bit of color to give you a hint as to how I would interpret them. For me, the blue on this card is resemblant of the Cups suit. So I would interpret this card as the 10 of Cups. I would do anything for you. But the idea behind these cards is that they are open for your interpretation. They're black and white for a reason. The numbers are there to guide you, to help you understand what my personal influence behind this card was. For example, the 6 of Swords inspired me to create this card. But the idea behind the black and white imagery is that you interpret it as you feel necessary. You really harness your intuition to understand the messages being conveyed. And also, it's black and white because it should be. This deck was created to offer you clarity, to offer you honesty, to give you truthful information, which is why there's no confusing imagery. It's just words. I need more balance. You know, have I lost everything? I have so much desire for you. The numbers are there to inspire you to delve deeper into the meanings, but the idea behind this whole deck is you shouldn't be overthinking it. It should be a useful tool, as all tarot is, to connect you with your intuition and to help you feel your way through your situation. So I hope that was useful for you. At least I hope that it gave you more information so that you feel more comfortable to use your deck. As always, don't overthink this, okay? You've got this. This is just another handy tool to use to tap into that intuition of yours and get the answers that you need. So if there's any other topics I might have missed or any other questions that you have about your Channeled Messages Oracle deck, please comment down below, let me know. I will come back to this video and just check the comments and answer as many of the questions that I can. Other than that, look after yourself, take care, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye!